You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a StarCitizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, StarCitizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and/or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radagast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, StarCitizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and in today's episode 127, we're going to dive into the Evocati Tech-Preview of Engineering. I'm going to offer my first reactions to StarCitizen's most ambitious ship systems overhaul yet. Then we're going to break down the Frontier Fighters finale, which is called Siege. It's also Phase 2. We're going to recap highlights from this week in StarCitizen, and we're going to answer your Spotify polls and Q&A at the very end of the episode, all while celebrating just a little Halloween spirit from the verse. So welcome in. This will absolutely be the shortest episode to date. There is hardly no information. And if I wasn't Evocati, there would literally be no information for today beyond the Frontier Fighters finale. So we're going to get through this for a couple minutes. I still wanted to provide you something to like entertain you going into Halloween and over the weekend. If you're traveling to see family or friends, let this be entertainment for you at the very, very least. So again, we're going to save Evocati for here in the next couple of minutes. Until then, happy Halloween. Like, sincerely happy Halloween. Even if you don't celebrate Halloween, this is a very fun time of year, right? Seasons change, the temperature changes. Here in Texas, we're actually in the 70s, which is, I don't know, people are freaking out and wearing 10 layers because it's 70 in Texas. Colors change, stores change. Like, we are entering in the holiday season of Q4. Right here in a couple of weeks, it'll be Thanksgiving. And in several more weeks, it'll be the December holidays, right? Christmas, New Year's. In game, we got Luminalia, IAE. We have all of these. We're going to be in Nyx, guys. We're going to be in Nyx in the next couple of weeks. So there's just so much. There's so much to look forward to. And I really do hope this has found you well, that you are in a good place in your life as best as you can be. So virtual hugs, virtual fist bumps, whatever bro thing you want to do. Again, I just hope this finds you well. All right, here we go. Halloween. I think I told you all this last episode, but me and my son, well, actually my whole family, we finished the series of Pirates of the Caribbean. So of course, this Halloween, my son wants, well, actually it's kind of funny. My son wants me to be a pirate. He wanted to be the inflatable parrot. Right. So, you know, those massive costumes that you have to like plug them into a wall. It's a battery pack, but you turn on a fan and it inflates and he looks crazy. He looks insane. He looks like a human riding the back of a parrot. So it doesn't jive well with me being in a pirate outfit. But anyways, you know, as a father, you do those things. So I am a pirate. He is going to be an inflatable parrot. My daughter is a Taylor Swift era. Again, I think I told you this last episode. She's like a 1989 era of Taylor Swift. I'm not exactly sure about the words coming out of my mouth. I don't know what that means. So my wife is also going to be a Taylor Swift era. One with a cape, because my wife wanted to wear a cape. I don't know, guys. It's going to be fun. We're inviting friends over. We're bringing up family from Houston. And kind of on that same spirit, something we like to do in Soul Provision. That's our in-game organization. We like to play into the seasons. It's not always sweaty, right? It's not always PvP and blowing stuff up, which inevitably is what we always do. Even last night with my story. We always try to capitalize on things happening in and even outside of the verse. And so last night, me and the board of directors decided to have a chill night where we wanted to have like I guess if you're like a parent, and maybe even if you're not a parent, you know about Trunk or Treat, not trick or treat, but trunk or treat, where you decorate your car. You go to a parking lot, and usually it's like kids and families will walk from like car to car, look at all the decorations, and you pass out candy and whatnot. It's something that's very, very popular with like kids and schools and organizations like that, right? Actual organizations. So in that spirit, I wanted to kind of emulate that in the verse. I wanted to emulate that in StarCitizen, and we decked out, well, there's a story that comes with this, but I decked out my Idris, right, with like a bunch of furniture. And we were going to have a trick or treat Halloween fight night. I don't know why necessarily we lean this direction, but even last year we did like a fight night aboard an 890 jump. And so for this year we did a fight night on an Idris. So it was fun. We asked our members to like get dressed in like their favorite costume or their favorite outfits, bring, tricks or treats. And that'll play into a really fun twist here in a second. But, and we would show up on the Idris and fight it out. Created a bracket. The winner, I was going to pick them up whatever patch bundle releases when Nyx releases. So the winner is going to get that when it's, when it comes here in a couple weeks. And watch this be like the one patch that doesn't get a patch bundle. I'm gonna have to find some way to make that up if that happens. But yeah, we added a little bit of flair to it, where right before it was your round to fight, you would have to consume, well, I would say, I don't want to say like drugs, because I don't want this podcast to get flagged. So it's not that we had you do that. I can't even say overdose. I'm saying all the buzzwords I shouldn't say. We gave you a lot of medical assistance that impaired you right before you fought. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It was hilarious. But even before that, StarCitizen was doing its StarCitizen thing to us. Like, the servers were awful last night. But if you have the right leadership, if you have the right personalities around you, it can just play into the fun. I don't know. I had the hardest time like getting the Idris out there. I wasn't able to bed log for some reason in the middle of nowhere between Stanton, Crusader and Crew L1, because I wanted to go halfway. I didn't want to get bothered by any other players. It said I was in a landing zone, so I couldn't bed log to get into the servers that my other org members were in. All right, number one. Number two, a lot of our costumes weren't sticking. We would put on our costumes, we would wait a couple of seconds, we would look down, and we were back to being naked, or we were back into the equipment or gear that we were in a couple minutes ago. So there was just this intense desync that was going on that was just impacting everything. Well, it gets worse for yours truly. Before that org night, I spent 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I spent a significant amount of time putting like all of the pirate furniture, the skull, I say skull and crossbones, but I think it's just a skull, the table, the chairs. I had like 2 or 3 tables, 10 chairs all set up looking beautiful in the hangar of the Idris to like create like a rink for our fighting. And then sure enough, right whenever I started forming the party, I was like, all right, we're just going to stay in my server so I don't have to bed log and figure that piece out. I went down to the hangar and it's all gone. Oh man, all that hard work, all the 30 to 45 minutes, and it's just poof, just gone. I'm like, seriously, what the It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Well, we ended up making it work. We did have other members, so shout out to Groza, still bringing furniture along in his Polaris. So we still had tables, we still had chairs, we still set up a semi rink, and we fought it out. But it was just a lot of fun. And I say this because we don't have a lot of news to get through. I'm trying to entertain you. But it was fun. You kind of have to make your own fun in the verse sometimes, especially when weeks go stale. And I would say this is probably one of those stale weeks. And again, it's fine. There was a lot of testing on the back end. So let that be a segue into here in the next couple minutes. But there was a lot of testing. Evocati spun up an engineering tech preview. They are spinning up a 4.4, like a Nyx preview that's supposed to happen over the weekend. So I can see their attention obviously being drawn towards things on the back end, but the servers are not in a good place. And hopefully the hot fixes that come in the next couple of days, hopefully they address them. So all yet to be seen, right? Okay, so let's actually get into this. We can StarCitizen. Let's get into at least some of the notes and things that have happened, and we'll probably wrap this thing up in less than 30 minutes. So again, just wanted to produce for y'all something. So sharing my screen for those of you on video. Happy Day of the Vara. Across the verse tonight, candles flicker, costumes hide familiar faces, and stories of those no longer with us drift through the air in time-honored tradition. As spirit cakes and iced wine are shared and the vigil stretches into the first light of morning, we honor our dearly departed while feeling the weight of the shadows they leave behind. Yet, while we remember the fallen, Day of the Vara also invites us to celebrate life. There's still time to join in until November 2nd. Share your own terrifying tales in the short story contest, carve your mark in the pumpkin decorating contest, and unlock seasonal themed masks in Arena Commander. All right, so at the time of recording this, it is Halloween. It is October 31st. Everything ends November 2nd. So you still have all day today and 2 more days, basically the weekend, if you want to participate in the Day of the Vara. So get those paints. I think it's black magic off the top of the dome. I think it's black magic. Get those paints. They look sexy. Do it. All right, so here's the bullet points. You can see my point. Right? Like, I don't know. This week in StarCitizen, and then Tuesday was the Frontier Fighters finale, phase 2 start. And then today we're going to have a jump point for subscribers. So kind of the downside of recording Friday morning the way I do, I won't be able to talk about the jump point. Now on my social media, I'll share it. I'll speak to it as far as the social media goes, but it clearly will not be part of this podcast. So evidence that there's really not much to talk about this week as far as news, reviews, and analysis. So what impacts everybody outside of Evocati, what impacts everybody is the start of stage 2. So I'm going to remind y'all, I'm going to go through the 432 Fractured Frontiers landing page. I'm not going to go through all this before because this page actually has not changed at all since phase 1 started. But here's where we're at, right? We're right here in phase 2. The only other phase after this starts off the top of the head. I think it's November 6th. We'll actually get into that date here in a moment. But the next phase, the last phase, is Takedown. But right now we are in Siege. The item you can win for participating, you accumulate points after completing missions. You can get yourself a paint for the Grey Cat MTC of your chosen faction. And it's really of both, right? You can prioritize one and try to get one first, but you can absolutely get both. Right. So pictures of those, I think we actually have to wait until the next page. Yeah, we'll have to wait until the next page for you to talk about the dates and talk about the items that you win. But just a reminder, the Deadlock patch bundle is legit. Great armor, great camo, especially if you have the Starlancer series. Phenomenal patch bundle, along with a weapon system and all that as well. So I personally would spend the $28, in my opinion. All right, so here's the actual Spectrum post where you can get into like items that you can win and information about Siege. So again, I would recommend bookmarking this, saving this. It'll be in the show notes. Feel free to reference this yourself. Again, we're not going to go through what is the Frontier Fighters. We did that in a previous episode. Here is your recon. Again, that was phase 1. We're beyond that. Here is Siege. Okay. So you can either choose FPS, but what's different between this phase and the last phase is now there is like space combat, right? It's asteroid ambushing. And so that was the one thing I was missing from the first phase. In the first phase, you were just running to bunkers or outposts. So outposts are bunkers and just taking out people from an FPS perspective. This introduces again, asteroid ambushing. So again, you choose Citizens for Prosperity or Headhunters, and you get this disable medgel recharge stations. Now, I want to call your attention to this image, right? The actual image of the medgel. I am sharing my screen. Good. This is actually kind of hard to find. I don't know. When I first did one of these missions, I had no idea what I was looking for. And that's on me. That's on me. I did not prep myself and do research and figure out like what these things are actually meant, to look like. But these are massive, and they are scattered throughout the bunker. To be very clear, guys, you don't just go to like one space. You have got to go every floor, every room, alongside every wall in order for you to find this contraption. And I would not waste bullets. It actually takes a significant amount of ammo in order to destroy. I would just go up to it in melee. It only takes 3 melees to destroy one of these. Don't waste your ammo. In fact, it's quiet, it's silent, so you're not like pissing off the little dogs, the Copian. So you're not alerting the Copian to your presence or any of the other NPCs. But again, go up to them, melee them. It's 3 melees. And for the 44K mission, which is the middle of the road, there's 10 of these. So you go and you destroy all 10. I actually can't speak to the other ones. I haven't tried the, what was like the 20K, the 40K, and the 70K. Each one produces more points for you. So it kind of depends on how like risk versus reward, like how much more challenging you want to make it for less attempts. So I do middle of the road. I think the middle of the road is like just, competitive enough, just engaging enough to like, keep me interested. So I don't really know how much it drops, the quantity of what you have to destroy. I'll find out between now and the next time we record. But again, take this picture, look at this picture. This is what you're looking for. Otherwise, you'll be hacking away at a bunch of different things with no avail. So do that. Okay, so that is the Disable Medgel Recharge Station. Then your other mission you can choose is Surprise Strike on the Frontier Fighters. Y'all, this is really no different than the Asteroid Ambush missions that came out a couple patches ago. So, quote, we've tracked a routine Frontier fighter, or fighters, flight path that passes through an emission cloud, ideal for an ambush. If you're ready, gear up and move to the ambush point immediately. So again, you're going to go to an asteroid field. You're going to put your ship inside of a cloud, like one of these emission clouds, to mask your identity and in your location. And then an enemy appears. You fight and take them out and move on. Excuse me. So you've got that for Citizens for Prosperity. It's the exact same thing for Headhunters, just like in the first phase. So let's look at the rewards. This is the image of the 2 different Grey Cat MTC paints. So one side versus the other side. Obviously, Headhunters is on the left. You can see it graffitied on the side of the MTC. What I like about Headhunters, it has the spray paint graffiti like look, but it also changes like the glass to that red glass. Then if you look over to Citizens for Prosperity, maybe more, I'm not even going to say camo. It's not camo. It just looks like a damaged, used, and abused like livery. But it's got the Citizens for Prosperity logos, the naming convention on the sides, but the lens or the glass is kind of a yellowish, maybe like a green or yellow tint. So I don't necessarily know if you're doing this for a ground asset paint. I don't know. You tell me. I think the Grey Cat MTC is a phenomenal ground asset. I would highly recommend putting that into one of your ships to make it faster for you to get to, the bunkers because of the turrets. But I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't go through. This is me personally, but when I call a ground asset, I don't think through. Okay, here's the paint job that I really want to put on it, so I can look at it for like 10 seconds. So again, if you're a completionist, go for it. Like, I think both look really, really well. But for me, I'm not going to kill for it. Like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to participate in Siege. I'm going to participate in this phase 2. But I'm not really looking forward to anything until we get to the next phase. So just a preview for phase 3, a preview for the last phase. Here's your actual ship paint. So you get your spirits and you have your arrows. Really, really, really good looking paint. And honestly, that Headhunter paint, that's pretty sick. This might be the one time that people just kind of furlough the the Citizens for Prosperity paint and just go straight for Headhunters, because that looks good. That looks really good. So yeah, and then I was right. The takedown phase 3 starts November 6th. So again, we've got 6 days until the last phase starts. But again, it's not like on November 6th, you can't go back and start with phase 1. You're not too late. You can go back at any point and pick up where you need to, or even just start the damn mission. So how are y'all feeling? How are y'all liking the Frontier finale? I think it's nice that they're doing something to just button it up. Like they were very clear that they're going to get rid of this. They're going to move on from this narrative. They were very clear about that. But I like how it's not just, moving on without giving it its fair conclusion, right? Like how many times does your favorite TV show or series, book, even video games, they just kind of forget that they did something and you're a year or 2 years later removed, and you look back and you're like, what happened with us choosing our factions? Like when Pyro released, like what happened there? There's no like ending. I don't know. It might matter to some. It matters to me. Like I look back, actually I did that like halfway through the year. There was a lot of attention with science laboratories, ASD, Onyx facilities. And there was a time around the summer where I was like, what was the point in choosing a faction? Like whatever happened to any of that from, Q1 of this year. So again, it was nice that they're wrapping it up. Participate, have fun, get your friends together. Honestly, you can do this in 1 hour. And here's the cheat. Here's the kind of the cheese way of doing it. Grab yourself 10 friends. Grab yourself 10 friends, all be in a party. Each one of you individually takes just a simple 44K mission, right? Just something that you know that you're going to do and not die from. Complete it. Obviously, take your mission, share it with everybody, and complete it. Everybody gets credit for completing that mission. So you can get those points accrued very, very, very quickly. So if you just want it over and done with, by all means. My advice as your favorite podcaster for StarCitizen is milk this, enjoy this, because it's those people in like 2 or 3 weeks from now that's like, oh, there's nothing to do. This game is boring. It's, nothing's dry. Well, it's because you cheesed like a mission like this. Go enjoy it. And like role play, park your ship 1,000 meters away and strategically find a way to get to the bunker. Take out the turrets of the bunker first, right? Like really challenge yourself. Do things that this quote unquote sandbox game gives you the ability to do and the flexibility to do, right? Do it. All right, here we go. I had to. Very few times do I get to drop the Brahms, impact. So I'm going to do it now, guys. Evocati. Now, let me be very clear. Very, 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 very clear. I am obsessed with NDA. Now, that's not me condoning it. That's not me saying that some, test of a test should be secretive and under a non-disclosure agreement. Right? I'm not voicing my opinion on that, but when there is an NDA, I adhere to the most strict version, even if it's self-imposed. So let me be clear that we are allowed to talk about the NDA. We are allowed to talk about Evocati. We are allowed to talk about engineering, but it is very, very clear that you are not to show anything from it. Now, here is the crux of the issue from a social media perspective. You will have content creators who share content about a tech preview that's under NDA, but that content was already publicly shown by CIG. So there are very credible content creators who came out with videos from previous material, from previous media. And a lot of them were immediately slammed by the community saying, oh, there's a break of NDA. How dare they? Now, on the other side of that coin, there were some pieces of S, don't want to get canceled. There were some people for likes and attention who did break NDA and showed some of the fire mechanics and everything. And I think in that situation, if I was CIG, no skin off my back, your ass is freaking banned. I would not even from NDA. I would just get rid of your ass, period. I would block you from ever having an account and you would never be able to play the game. Why? Because fuck you. That's why. You're one person. But the whole, like, you were trusted. You were trusted with a test of a test of a test. It's not CIG's best face forward. It's not their best foot forward. They're trying to get something out there. It's like, again, a sandbox. And they're like, hey, here's a toy that no one's ever seen or playing with. Let's see if it's, safe. Let's see if it's good for kids or bad for kids, right? Like, play in that sandbox. But there are still those individuals, because they didn't get enough love from their parents or whatever have you, who just thrive and they salivate over this opportunity to ruin things because they want to be the very first. There are those individuals. And so as a listener, I want you to have the tenacity and the discipline to do your research before you judge a content creator. Not me, but just a content creator. So you're going to watch a video on YouTube and you're like, okay, that's about an NDA subject, but maybe I don't really know where it's coming from. And I would assume positive intent. I would absolutely assume positive intent. Unless it's just blatantly like a video of an Intrepid, which is obviously a newer ship, but of an Intrepid catching fire, and somebody saying, hey, I can pull a fire extinguisher out, but I have to de-equip one of my weapon systems in order to hold the fire extinguisher and put out the fire. That is absolutely, obviously, this NDA tech preview that happened a couple days ago. All right, off my soapbox. Do you agree or do you not agree? I don't know. Interested. Respond to the notes or the comment section. I would love to hear y'all's sentiment, if you share it or if I'm just way off in left field. All right. I was able to jump in it for just a few minutes, guys. Full transparency. This entire week, I was hosting coworkers from Seattle here in Austin, Texas. So I've been entertaining very deep in, work events. If y'all are from that world, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. But I did hurry my ass home. I did hurry up and jump into what I could for the NDA. And I did get to experience fires. It's amazing. I actually like it. So first off, let me, again, another preface. I apologize, but I feel like this needs to be said. CIG is not going to create a tech preview on something that might not happen, right? Like, you might jump into the game and you're going to sit around twiddling your thumbs for 2, 3, 4 hours and the fire event or your ship failing just not happen. So, of course, they're going to dial it up. Of course, CIG is going to be like, hey, you breathed on a circuit system. And, okay, so now it's on fire. There was a lot of feedback of like, this is going to break the game. This is going to end solo play. You're never again going to be able to enjoy yourself on your Intrepid, on your small ship, because you're always going to be putting out fires. Guys, I firmly believe CIG dialed it up so that people like me, who only had like an hour to jump in on it, experienced what was needed to be tested. Okay. I fully expect CIG to do their due diligence when this launches and dial that shit back. I fully expect them to make this scalable, where solo players are not being they're not asked to put out fires every like 5-10 minutes. Okay. All right. I did experience the fire. And it was awesome. It gave me something to do. Yes. Did it detract from what I could have been doing? Of course, I was there for engineering, so that didn't throw me off. But if I was headed to a system, if I was headed to Nix, if I had cargo on a whole sea, like, would it have been kind of annoying? Yeah. And that's going to happen, right? That's going to happen. You will get annoyed from time to time. But again, the whole point is to add an aspect of realism, to add an aspect of org and group play, to give you kind of that, it is kind of balancing, but to give you that almost risk factor. If you're going to be in a ship for, 15 minutes going from Stanton to Pyro to Nyx on like an interstellar cargo trade route, like you should also be a little bit fearful that, man, something could happen. My ship could catch on fire. Like, how do I react to that? But it is kind of alarming. It is stressful. You get out of your pilot seat and you find the closest extinguisher. You go up to the extinguisher and heaven forbid you have both of your rifle slots equipped. So like I always have a sniper rifle, like a long distance and a medium distance. So I have a short distance, a medium distance, and on my hip, usually I have a pistol for close distance, like a Coda, right? A lot of stopping power. So all of my weapon system slots are taken. You can't pick up the fire extinguisher and use it if all of your slots are full. I'm just going to let that sink in for a little bit. It's a known issue. It's an issue right now. So if all your stuff is filled out and you go to a bunker and you kill an enemy that drops like a really awesome weapon, but you want to keep all of them, like you want to keep your sniper, your mid, your close, and you also want to pick up that rare rifle that was just dropped, you can't. So even though your hands are free, you can't go down and pick up the rifle. Well, just in that example, as that example, that's what happens with the fire extinguisher. So you go to the fire extinguisher, you try to pick it up, you can't. You actually have to drop one of your weapon systems before you can pick up the fire extinguisher. That's my biggest hang up. That's it, guys. My biggest hang up with this entire tech preview was that. So that's the kind of the good news and the bad news. Like hopefully they identify that, and hopefully that is something that gets fixed before this launches. But they've known about this issue for months now. And so I'm a little concerned that like if you haven't fixed it for months now, why are you just now going to fix it with fire extinguishers? So a little frustrating. So I enjoyed it, went out, put out some fires. There's a lot to like, in my opinion, especially if you fast forward to like Org Nights and there's 20 of you aboard an Idris, 8 of you aboard a Polaris. Like there will be times where, when your turret operators like, hey, if you're on the dorsal port side turret and there's a fire around your area, engineer calls it out. Either the engineer needs to run his happy ass across the entire ship to put it out, or, hey, turret operator, take a second, drop what you're doing, put out that fire, get back to work. It's going to be fun to kind of coordinate and execute that complex mission, right? Or that side quest, if you will. What I wanted to do, again, this is Evocati. You would have to be Evocati to even see this because it's in the ETF. Like the feedback channel in the Evocati NDA. So I'm going to give you this opportunity to see behind the curtain. And again, here's your Evocati only standard NDA applies. Talk, but no show. I will not be showing y'all video or media or any of it, right? Any of it. So here we go. Ships, there's a power management of items. Engineering screen is active, so you can actually turn on and interact with the engineering screen. Super awesome. There's a diagnostic screen MFD. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so heat management of items. Items that are powered will produce heat that needs countering of coolers. Overheated components will shut off to cool down again. Life support management. Life support will manage breathable atmosphere and temperature of rooms. It's not yet affected by players breathing. Not yet affected by players breathing. Just, read that sentence about 10 more times. It is affected by fire. It is affected by venting the ship. Pretty cool. Fire on ships. Fire can spread. Fire can be triggered through overheated components. Like fire can be triggered through damaging of components. Shooting components with energy or ballistic weapons. Fire can get extinguished, venting of rooms or fire extinguisher. Info, right now temperature needs to be brought down to prevent reignition. Okay. Relays, connect items throughout the ships. The relay function changed and is not in yet. The goal is fully intact relays allow the full power throughput. That means each fuse that gets destroyed will reduce the total power available in this ship. All right, change relays. Relays are not, good Lord, relays are not the hard weak point anymore, where if you lose all fuses, you render that part of the ship dead. Component damage. Ship weapons will penetrate the hull and damage the components below. Component death will result in component not being functional, but it can be repaired. Power plant can go into critical state that will make the ship explode. Here's an info drop. It cannot be countered yet, but it's supposed to get countered through repair or removing the power plant if possible. Another info drop. The armor of ships is not yet in. It did not make it to this Evocati playtest. Weapon balancing. Updated weapon balancing to account for penetration and new damage. The ship component balancing, full new balancing for components. That's the heat generation, which is new. An update of health, damage resistances. And then FPS. Repair gun now repairs components. Repair rates updates RMC consumption update. And the fire extinguisher cools down and extinguishes fire. And so there were several ships. I'm going to read them very quickly because there's a lot. The longer list of ships that are fully or partially implemented for the engineering in this playtest were, all right, here we go. How many of these would you be able to pick out in the night sky? Like if you were to just see a silhouette of it, would you be able to quickly identify it? That's kind of a game I play with myself. Here we go. The Carrack, the Mercury Star Runner, the Gladius, the Saber, the Scorpius, the Ares Inferno and Ion, the Corsair, the Cutter, the Fortune, the Fury MX and LX, the Golem, the Guardian QI MX, the Hull A, the Mantis, Meteor, Intrepid, the Polaris, Prowler, Pulse, Retaliator, the Centaur I, the Spirit C1 and A1, the Starlancer Max Attack, the Sulin, the Talon and Shrike, the Terrapin, the Asgard, the Storm and the Storm Alpha Alpha, the Vanguard Warden, Harbinger, Sentinel, the Vulture, Nomad Nova, the Zeus CL and MR, the STV, the X1, the Ursa Medevac, the Apollo Triaged Medevac, and Paladin. Those are a lot of names. So as I just go through those, I'm like, yeah, I think each one of those I'd be able to call out. One, like the Santoki Eye you'd be able to call that out. You would absolutely be able to call that out. But I completely forgot about that ship. That has been off of my radar for years at this point. And seeing it just here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually really enjoyed my time with that ship. It was a lot of fun. So I hope you got value out of that. I truly do. Before I was Evocati, I had weird, mixed feelings about it. Cause I'm like, we're already playing a test of a test of a test. Right? We're not even in alpha theoretically. We're early access, or I don't know what the hell you call it nowadays. It is a live game for all intents and purposes of what a live game is. How StarCitizen wants to classify it for this year versus next year, I don't know. Whatever. Right? Let's just call it an alpha. So if it's an alpha test, there's a PTU, there's a tech preview, there's an early PTU. Then there's an Evocati. Then there's an Evocati Tech Preview. There are so many versions of testing. But I can appreciate how they approach some of the testing. So this is messy. This is messy. Not everything is live. I can see why they don't want to put that foot forward. When this is live in the PU, it gets broadcasted, streamed, it gets talked about, reviewed. It's a bigger commitment, and it's harder sometimes. It is harder once you release something to kind of pull it back. Now, CIG has not been afraid to do that. There are many hanger modules, right? There are many things that CIG has launched into the live PU that they've pulled back to edit and make better. So again, they're not beyond it, but there are just some things that are so new and can potentially break so many different parts of the game, like engineering, that I can understand why CIG took this route. And so hopefully you do too. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong. it just took me a couple years to kind of come over to the dark side and think, okay, all right, I can see why you wouldn't want this to be like the face of StarCitizen going into Nyx. Let's figure this crap out. We'll do it together. At some point, engineering will go into an EPTU, a PTU, whatever. It'll go through its phases. But yeah, it's probably good that it started off with such of a smaller group. Okay. Well, a little longer than 30 minutes. I tried. I tried. So I hope this finds you well, everybody. Again, happy Halloween. I hope you are enjoying your time inside the game. Really do enjoy it now. It's the calm before the storm. We are getting ready for not only, IAE, one of the biggest, shopping times and engagement times in StarCitizen for the year, but it's also the same time as we're launching, Nyx. So there's a lot of things that are happening in the next couple of weeks. So enjoy this downtime. Enjoy really not having that much to do, except for the Frontier finale. So go do it. Go get your paints. Go get your, little civilian outfits. And just remember where we've been. So that way in the next couple of months, you can really appreciate, remember that Pyro launched less than a year ago. And just let that kind of sink in. Where have we been since this time last year? Yeah, just let that kind of just let that cook. All right, guys. If you want more of this podcast, or if you want to know about our in-game organization called Soul Provision, you can do so by visiting our websites at beyondtheversehq.com or soulprovision.com. If you want to become part of the conversation, which we still need to do, guys. We still need to do quotes and Q&A. All right, hold on. I'm still going to do this. Well, let me just go ahead and wrap it up. If you don't want to listen, if you don't want to hear from the community, let me just not make this weird and continue with the outro. You can email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. Go to Spotify, answer the polls, leave us a comment, and we will get through them like we will in the next couple of seconds. But yeah, we still have our philanthropy going on with Extra Life. We give money, or we pass through the money that you give directly to children's hospitals. So if you feel so called, if you feel compelled to give to children's hospitals, please, by all means, it's beyondtheversehq.com/give. Okay, let's get into last week's episode, and then we will just end it at that point. So let me open this up. Completely forgot I was doing this. It's kind of important. All right, sharing my screen. I asked you, what are you most excited to explore first when Nyx arrives in 4.4? All right, so the majority of you, say 41.7%, say just flying there, just exploring, seeing a new thing in the verse. That's going to be your reason for going to Nyx, right? 33.3% say the new missions, which I can wholeheartedly get behind, especially the interstellar cargo, especially. And then 25% of you say Levski's return. And then I kind of did this to myself. I realized after I posted this, the just flying there and new places of interest are basically the same thing, right? Exploration. And so 0 of you say, new places of interest. To the comments section. Here we go. Billy the Beast writes, a couple missions a week. You got to pump those numbers up to ensure Headhunter's victory. I'm a diehard Headhunter. I really like their org ship paints we got from the Fight for Pyro. It's crazy how close the numbers are between Headhunters and CFP, though. It's definitely neck to neck. Thanks again for the awesome weekly podcast. You are very much welcome. I enjoy doing this, and you are absolutely correct. Statistically, it has been very fun to watch these numbers go head to head. It's pretty close. I think the last time I looked, yesterday, it was they were both at 40 million. So it's cumulative. It's not like it starts over at phase 2. So between phase 1 and a couple of days of phase 2, both are right around 40 million, but there's only a couple hundred, if not a couple of thousand, that separate the two. It's pretty intense. All right, Tapeworm writes, with exterior freight elevators coming into place soon, I've been wondering how CIG plans to protect people from pirating and griefing at these sites. Will they use turrets, trespassing zones around the elevators? Nothing Just remember some people stealing cargo during race for Stanton and think this will be similar. Any insight? Yeah, I've got insight. They won't do anything. And I think that needs to be okay. Like, again, if you remember how they pitched Pyro, like Pyro should be a dangerous place. It should be very risky to do anything in Pyro. And I kind of feel Nyx should be a middle ground. It shouldn't be as risky or as difficult or scary for, for those delivering cargo in Pyro, but it should be more risky than Stanton. Because remember, Nyx does not have the UEE. They don't have a security force, but they're still governed. It's still Wild West. So there's still an ideal law enforcement. So you would imagine there might be some turrets, but for the most part, you need to watch your shit. Like if you are solo flying a whole sea and that whole sea is, geared to the brim of cargo, you should be nervous. Yeah, you should be thinking through how the hell you're going to get that out as quickly as possible without somebody in a prowler utility coming and janking all your stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't quote me and say that is absolutely CIG's stance, but they have been very clear about that since the very beginning. So deliver if you want safety and you want a solo, stay in Stanton. And Tapeworm, I am not coming at you like this. I'm not saying you specifically, but if you want the safety and security of the UEE, like let's just stay role playing, let's stay in the lore. If you want the safety and security of the UEE, stay in Stanton. If you want a bigger bang for your buck, but you need to watch your 6 every 5 seconds, go to Pyro, right? But I think the good middle ground is going to be Nyx. So where you see these exterior freight elevators, like, good luck. Good luck. And you make a good point relating it to Race for Stanton or the supply missions that we did for Stanton. Those were dangerous and they were quote unquote exterior. They were out at the mining facilities, on planet side. But yeah, you still had to watch your back. Like you still had to be careful and make sure no one was there jacking with your stuff. So it's not necessarily new. There is precedent. But yeah, I think Nyx is going to be a good middle ground. Stillwicker Beast writes, it's great to see Nyx in the roadmap roundup, even if it's just Levski and the Glacian Belt. But I'm admittedly a little nervous about it releasing alongside IAE. Yep. Which we all know has a free fly. Getting a new system, the largest ship show of the year, the launch of another popular large ship, the Perseus, and a free fly at once will be a true test of server meshing. I'm also I'm also excited to hear about engineering that's going on in Evo testing. So I hope that means the Vulcan update is coming to live soon as well. Okay. In the past, for this year, CIG was really good about pulling out of a free fly. They canceled a free fly. I don't think they're willing to do that for IAE. I think IAE is a huge recruiting event. They're going to be pushing for you to bring your friend along and grow the audience of StarCitizen. So I actually agree with you 100%. It's going to be scary. It's going to be scary. But I will say, like, the majority of those individuals, I have no data to back this up, but I would imagine that the majority of IAE is going to hang out around IAE. Like, I have a feeling they're going to stay in the area. I think it's going to be in Orison this year. Don't hold me to that. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in Orison this year. So maybe Crusader might be very crowded, but you also have Nyx. So like, I think the majority of people will also be flying between Stanton and Nyx. So it might not be that crazy or maybe, that insane of higher numbers, but we'll see. But Free Fly is probably going to stay live. Absolutely. So Jason Funk writes the Diccolo, good Lord. That's the joke we have in our org. We call him Wicklow the Diccolo because of how he treats us when we turn equipment in. We're not really happy with him right now. And we probably will never be happy with Wicklow. The medium armor gives me Predator vibes with the braids coming off. Absolutely. I'm really liking the variety in armors we are starting to see in the updates. I agree. We finally are getting away from the typical, Mark 5 or Mark X's, the Orc Mark X's. Jawa Speed. The Ember Guard Syndicate wants to give a shout out to our boy Billy the Beast. Great dude. Another great podcast video. Thank you as always. You are very much welcome. I really like you called out one of our commenters. So the very first commenter is Billy the Beast, and Jawa Speed is shouting out Billy the Beast. There you go. Girdle writes, another great org night with Soul Provision. Although I'm always fashionably late being on Pacific time, I still always enjoy doing group missions. Looking forward to the engineering update and hearing the pod cover that. Thanks for taking the time to read the comments. Always the highlight of my week. Happy hunting. Y'all are very much welcome. Thank you for engaging and being part of this show. I will try to always have a section dedicated to you, the listener and viewer. So thank you again for engaging. Again, I hope this finds everybody well. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care.